Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Change to Change. And today we have been blessed with the presence of a phenomenal woman who I've known for, has to be a few decades or so.
Yeah.
I'm not telling our age, but for a long time, she and I go way back. And I'm so excited to finally have her on the show, and she's going to be sharing some great information about our upcoming FIP conference, which will be taking place July 13th in Alexandria at the Randolph Riverfront Center for formerly incarcerated people and currently incarcerated people's family. We are asking people across the state of Louisiana to attend this conference. And today, the beautiful Ivy Mathis will be sharing more information about the conference. She's pretty much the program coordinator who set everything straight for this conference and the information that will be shared during this conference. Please help me welcome Miss Ivy Mathis.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for inviting me to this show. It's such a pleasure to always just be a part of From Change to Change and just really talk about the things that are happening around the country, around the world, around Louisiana, and especially what we got going on about the FIP program conference. And so before I start, I want to start telling everybody, a little bit about my story. At the age of 17, I was given a life sentence. And I, in turn, served 26 years, 2 weeks, and 5 days. 2017, after the Supreme Court ruled that those sentences were unconstitutional, I ended up getting some relief. So I served 26 years, 2 weeks, and 5 days, and I am the first female in the state of Louisiana to be released under the Miller Montgomery ruling through the parole board. And I remember leaving prison just making a promise to the women that I would be back, to help and advocate and just do something, not really knowing what that was, but because women are often left out of many conversations when it comes to mass incarceration. I felt the need that I wanted to be a part of changing that and just talk about what women experiences are, especially when the cultural expectations on women acclimating back into society versus a male is higher. And I came home working two jobs, culinary arts, got my degree in prison, wanted to be a cook, but there was a part of me missing. And after about a year, Consuela, who's actually the host of this show, called me one day and said, they're looking for an organizer in the Baton Rouge chapter. And I came and did the interview and got hired. Didn't really know what to expect. I was given a laptop and told to just organize. And I had some guidance, of course. But the one thing that I did come with that was always in check and hasn't changed was my heart posture and my willingness to fight for those that we had left behind. And so I'm excited to announce that July 13th, we are having our first FIP conference in the Alexandria area, and it is titled Waking the Sleeping Giant. And that title just resonates with me so much because going back to prison, having conversations with many of my sisters, Sway, I think you and I have had this conversation many times. When I get out of prison, I need to do something to change and make this better on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had this conversation many times, and lo and behold, I work for Vote Now. I'm given that platform to advocate for formerly and currently incarcerated people, even at the board, the governor's office, and just help them acclimate back into society.
Now, Ivy, just quick. I think you left. You do so much. You kind of like me. We do so much, but I think you left a piece out. At Vote, what do you do now? You're not an organizer anymore. What do you do now?
After a year about being an organizer, talking to Mr. Norris Henderson about women and, just finding out and learning that there weren't enough places for women to go coming home versus men, and just talking to Norris. And he said, I really know about men, but not women. And I got promoted to the transitional home. We have a transitional home for women, Diamond House, and I'm the director over that home. I actually picked the women up from prison, and there's nothing more fulfilling than picking the women up from prison. And most of the women that I have picked up from prison, I did a substantial amount of time with these women and just picked them up, helped them get acclimated. And in that moment, I let them know that you can be yourself. You can cry. You're free. If you want to let the window down and hang your hands out of the window, you want to get something to eat, you can make your own decision. Just having that moment with them right then and there, I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. So that's what I do.
Awesome, awesome. And so now we fast forward to the FIP conference that's going to be taking place in July. Like you said, that's Vote's first time putting on a conference specifically for formerly incarcerated people. Y'all keep hearing us say FIP. That's what that means. FIP is formerly incarcerated people. Um, and specifically also for currently incarcerated people. We want to make sure they're in this space as well. So, Ivy, you have pretty much been the one who has pulled together the program for this day. And I'll say it is a day conference. It's a 1 day conference. Um, what can people kind of expect, especially formerly incarcerated people who may have never been in a space like this before? What what are some of the things they can expect, not necessarily giving away the entire agenda or what's on the agenda, but what can some people expect to learn or hear or see during this conference?
So much, so much. The beauty of this in its entirety is most of the formerly incarcerated people who have already signed up to attend the conference are actually recipients of Vote's work at the legislative session, including myself. And so it's just going to be a beautiful event where all of us in solidarity coming together. But we're really talking about our rights, what's going on in Louisiana now as far as formerly incarcerated people are concerned, and just coming together, getting people registered to vote, learning how to build power, learning how to um reach out to your community, get your families involved that's impacted, because it's very important. A lot of bills have been rolled back that affect currently and formerly incarcerated people, bills that Vote has had passed. So we're just going to come together, meet, and do workshops and learn about the power that we hold, the value, and what needs to take place on our part statewide moving forward. If we ever want to see change, then we have to rise above, connect with people, and then who are working for change. If we want our living environment, our situations to be better as formerly incarcerated people, what does that look like? What is going to take, and how we need to be more unified and come together. And that's what this conference is going to basically be about.
I love hearing that, Ivy. It's so important, and it's timely, right? Like the timing is now. So when a lot of people hear the word conference, they think it's just a place where you go and people talk at you, but that's not what this is, right? Like this is going to be engaging, and people often think of a conference as like you don't actually connect with people. And you talked a little bit about connecting with people. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how there are going to be people from all over the state. It's not just people from New Orleans. It's not just people from Lafayette. It's not just people from Baton Rouge, and what that connection is going to look like for people coming to the conference.
Yes. No, it's going to be it's a statewide 1 day event. We just say conference because it's just a gathering, but going to be a powerful gathering from people all across the state. And formerly incarcerated people are not just in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, they're all over the world, you know. And so what we're looking for is people to just come out and really learn. You know, we hear all the time what's going on in different parishes. And if I was in a position to change certain things, how do I do that? A lot of people look up to Vote a lot of time because Vote does a lot of heavy lifting because we hear so much going on in the community and across this country, you know, so they come to Vote for a little advice and things of that nature. How do I start? How do I get the community involved? And what do I need to do? So at this conference, if you really want to be a part of change agents and be a part of this, then this is the way to come. This is the way to come. We welcome everybody. We want everybody to come and learn and walk away with some very important tools that they need moving forward. And the number one tool is the importance of voting. Why voting is important and why we need to have our people registered to vote.
Yes. And I was just recently in a conversation, and someone said something that was so profound, and just something that I want to share is they said, you know, formerly incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people have to realize that if we're not at the table helping to change and make decisions, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. We're on the menu.
Mhm,
And so that just simply means that if we're not there helping to form and create and make decisions that are going to directly impact our lives, we are leaving ourselves wide open
mhm,
to being eaten alive,
mhm,
you know. And so we, like we said, the theme of this conference is waking the sleeping giant. Who is that giant? It is us, because there has to be probably 100,000 or even more formerly incarcerated people throughout the state of Louisiana who are literally asleep. Because we have people in cities, we have people in rural communities, um, that have just kind of disappeared off of the radar. And some people are pretty much okay with that. But we need people to not be okay with that anymore. We
mhm,
need people to literally come out of these little holes they've crawled into, um, and be heard and be seen and be acknowledged and recognized. And that's what it's going to take in order for us, as people who have been so deeply impacted by the criminal justice system, to really make a difference,
mhm,
you know.
mhm,
And that's what this conference is all about. It's about us coming out and showing up for not just ourselves, but for others, for our communities, for our families. It's about showing up
mhm,
and being present in this work, and actually adding your voice into this, you know. And so could you just speak to how important it is, and just really stress to our people who are viewing and probably hearing this for the first time, that this FIP conference is going to be taking place on July 13th in Alexandria, specifically for formerly incarcerated people and currently incarcerated people's families. Can you just kind of speak to the power that we have, um, even as formerly incarcerated people, the power that we have, um, because most don't realize that we have that power.
Right. Oh, absolutely, Sway. And thank you for that because one of the things that I really want to highlight is when I talked earlier, I mentioned heavy lifting. A lot of people really don't understand the work that has been put in for hundreds, thousands of people that have come home in the last couple of years under these laws that were passed. And now, in the blink of an eye, with these laws rolling back, people don't understand the importance or the danger that these laws pose on people who have been out doing well, have started careers, built families, but in the blink of an eye, the way the laws are set up now, the way the laws are set up now, in the blink of an eye, you can easily go back to prison. So all that's going down the drain. Your power is your voice. Your power is your vote. And if you really don't come to understand that, then I don't know what else to do. But I'm asking everybody to just come together, register for this conference, get knowledge, get involved because we need everybody to just wake up and see what's going on in our state, in our country.
I love that because there is immense power in your voice. And so I have a question for you, Ivy. And one of the things that I love about Vote and all the people with Vote is for some reason I can remember the first time I met every single person. I remember the first time I met Ivy was in Chico's Cafe at the state capitol about
Right.
3 years ago. Um, and so I think a lot of people, they hear you, they're like, okay, right, we got to use our voice, but they think I'm not the right person. And Ivy, you've been through a lot. You described your whole story.
Mm.
What can you say to people who say they're not the right person, right? They're not the right person to use their voice. They're not the person who's the leader. They're not the person who's the organizer. What can you say to those people? Because there are a lot of people who don't think they're the right person and they're the exactly right person.
They are the right person. But I like to tell people, we do storytelling and we meet with people. We have a base and we have people that have actually said that. And we like confirm to them, first of all, you have to build them up and break those barriers down and help them understand that you don't have to be the most articulate person or the most professional speaker. You speak from your heart. And when those issues that you are concerned about that affect you and your family, you are the right person to speak on those issues because at the end of the day, you are the person that is affected by that. But even if you are uncomfortable with speaking, then it's simple. Just show up and support.
Yep, that's what it takes. That's what it takes, Ivy. And I think to kind of wrap it up, I hate to see you go, but I know you're a busy woman. To kind of wrap it up, we always try to ask our guests, um, in knowing all that has taken place and knowing all that's going on in this crazy world, um, what gives you hope? What gives you hope to continue in this work that you're doing?
What gives me hope is the second chance that I was given. At one while, I was deemed unredeemable. I was given a life sentence. But the main reason for organizations such as Vote and some other partners fighting for our rights, somebody fought for me. And so I will continue to fight. I will continue to show up and continue to fight because someone did it for me, as thousands of others that who have come home from these laws. And though that's what gives me hope.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Ivy, is there a number or an email address that you can share if someone wanted to reach out to you to find out more about the Diamond House in New Orleans, which is a transitional house for women, um, or just, maybe want to join the Baton Rouge chapter? Um, do you have some information that you could share? that they can use or go to?
I can be reached at voice Ivy at voice of the experienced with a D.org. My phone number is 225-954-4598. I am I commute to New Orleans from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But if you can't reach me there, you can always reach me at the vote office, the admin who's always readily available to hand out our information. So I can easily be reached. And before we go, I just want to announce we have a success story with Diamond House. One of our clients who did 16 years, she's been home 13 months. She worked the program and she's closing on her home Monday with me as her realtor. So we're
That
That's
really working with the
amazing.
ladies. We're really working with them. And so she closes Monday on her home.
That is amazing, and congratulations, Ivy, for all of the phenomenal work that you're doing with Diamond House and helping the women transition, make smooth transitions back into society, and also with your real estate business. You're doing some amazing work, and we're so proud of you. And thank you for joining us today. Um, it won't be the last time because we got to get you to come back and talk about your real estate profession and all that, because you have some knowledge that needs to be shared with some people about home ownership, especially people who think that they cannot. And you just gave a prime example of someone who probably once thought they would never be a homeowner, but is getting ready to close on their home. So we'll have you back, Ivy. Thank you so much, and continue to do the great work that you're doing.
I
Thank
am.
you,
It's
Ivy.
a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we will be back in just a minute. All right, and we are back. And now with us, we have a great man who I have truly come to admire because he is so passionate about the work that we do here at Boat. Um, he's getting ready to get married this weekend. So, ladies, don't even try to get at him. He is a committed man. So I want to welcome my colleague. This is his first time being on the show. He's down there in New Orleans. Um, Help us welcome an organizer with Vote, Charles Amos. Hey, Charles.
Hey, how y'all doing? It's nice to be here. In fact, immediately when you said that I was from Vote, I thought about I spent some time, not the way I like, in the Lake Charles area, Lake Charles, Lafayette area. So I hope a few
Okay.
people that I know will probably pop out and say, hey man, I know him.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for being here with us today. Um, and our focus, today is all about the upcoming FIP conference that's taking place July 13th in Alexandria. And before we get into that, I would love for you to just kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you coming from with our audience so they could get a better understanding of who Charles Amos is.
Yes, my name is Charles Ames, and like Sway said, this Saturday, June 1st, I'll be getting married. I am so happy about that process. There's a lot of things that has been transpiring over my life. I'm recently been released from incarceration. I did 28 years for second degree murder. I've been home 2 years now. I'm so blessed from many aspects of that reality. Life has been moving fast for me. It's the good fast. Before incarceration, I was doing the bad fast. Now, post incarceration, I am doing the good fast. Things are moving fast, and I am blessed in a lot of ways in a lot of areas, but I'm not an anomaly. there's these blessings are right there for all of us. And I'm specifically talking about people who are coming from incarceration. It's just about realizing that the power and resources that you need is right before you. And so this is one of the things that we are focusing on with this FIP conference. I want to talk about this FIP conference because, like Sway said, I am passionate about it. And one of the reasons why I'm passionate about it is for a long time, my life was centered on crime. You know, my life was centered on how I can make quick dollars. And those decisions sent me down a road of incarceration far longer than I ever wanted it to be. I was initially incarcerated as a juvenile at 16 for armed robbery. I did like almost 3 years, went home, came back again for second degree murder, and spent 28 years of incarceration. And during that period, I just had to remake myself. And in remaking myself, not to go home because I had a life sentence. So I was hoping to go home, but the reality was that I very well may die in prison. And so the change that I was doing was for my own benefit. I wanted to remake who I was because I was tired of being that person. And so when I made it to that mindset that I need to change myself, then I started looking at my incarceration differently. I started looking at so many factors of my life. I begin to develop a deeper relationship with God. And these are the things that push me towards my freedom. And so, in coming home, seeing how the system was, because there's two aspects that I was looking at. Number one, I created a lot of things in society that pushed it over the limits, you know, because I was doing crime. I understand that. And so I'm looking at it now from, okay, a lot of things that are happening in society, I kind of contribute to it. So I need to make good for that. And so now connecting, coming home, working for Vote, my mindset is, wait, hold up. I just did all this time. I'm kind of at fault for how some of the things are happening in life because I was contributing to that. So now I need to focus on what I need to do to change for the good. And so now, as an organizer, I'm going in communities and I'm seeing how things are not quite right. Before incarceration, I wasn't paying attention to that. But now that I've educated myself, because while incarcerated, I educated myself so much. And the thing about it is, and these for people who may think, well, I'll never be educated. I went to prison as a functioning illiterate. You may not think that way now, but I wasn't educated when I went to prison. And I consumed myself with education. So it's never too late. And I think when I made it to Angola, I was 22. And so, and mind you, 22 years old, inside of Angola, you don't want people to take advantage of you. And so it took me swallowing my pride to admit that I could hardly read. And so in doing that, just swallowing my pride, it pushed me into another level. And that level constantly pushed me towards my freedom. But being home, I'm like, okay, something has to change. I don't like the way society is going. I didn't like the way incarceration was going, but I knew that I had to wake up people. I had to get into a space where people could understand that the resources that they need is right before them. Is tailored the theme of this FIP conference, Waking the Sleeping Giant, is so powerful because a lot of us, especially formerly incarcerated, and I want to put this on the table too, just to let people know just how powerful it is when you realize that you have the power to achieve a lot of things. Now, I ran for office. I wasn't successful like some other people were, and they know who they are on this call. Sway, you know, I might well say it, but just me coming home from incarceration after 2 years, not in fact, I wasn't even home 2 years yet, running for office. That should let all formerly incarcerated people know that, man, we can do this. I'm not gonna say you, I'm gonna say, man, we can do this, man. And this is what this conference is about. This conference is about, hey, man, listen, you don't have to struggle. And those who aren't struggling, you have the power to change your circumstances. And not just your circumstances, but you have the power to change somebody else's circumstances. And so it's going to take all of us, formerly incarcerated people, coming together and saying, you know what? I may not need the resources, but he does or she does. So I'm gonna work to make sure that they get the resources they need to succeed. Because there was a slogan in Angola that I'll never forget. Each one, reach one. And so this is what this FIP conference is about. It's about waking that sleeping giant.
That is a fantastic story of self, Charles, and then leading into the conference. I wanted to ask you a quick question about the conference and yourself, because I'm sure there was a time in your life you never thought of yourself as a community organizer, yet you are. And I'm curious to if you could talk a little bit about your journey into stepping into that power, stepping into that community organizing power, and then what you see for other people in that power also of that organizing aspect.
Yes. When I first came on at Vote, I was on the C4 side, the political side. I love politics. I love chasing politics. I love reading politics. And to me, that was the place to be. But I was a videographer. Um, that's why I was hired here at Vote. And I learned that skill in prison. But I was a videographer. And so when I switched to the C3 side as an organizer, I started seeing that, wait, hold up, making these connections, letting people know about resources. I was doing that in prison. But I wasn't seeing it as an organizer. I was seeing it as just somebody being resourceful. Okay, you need to find out about something, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. Well, I'll do it. People would come to me, hey, man, look, how do you do this? Or how do I track this down? Or how do I do this? And so when I switched over to the C3 side and I'm seeing, wait, hold up, I'm making these connections. This is kind of what I did while incarcerated. I'll make those connections to empower people to get the resources that they need to help them. And look, I may not benefit from providing the resources that they need. Just the other day, a lady called me. She needed something. And so I'm like, okay, I know who to call. And so I called them two people. She was like, man, they were perfect. And I'm like, thank you. And I just think about it, man, I've always done this. So have I always been an organizer to whereas I see the moving parts, knowing how to bring everybody together. But I didn't really see it initially until I got on the C3 side that, hey, man, wait, this is organizing. I just call it as being resourceful. So, I mean, I didn't know, and I enjoy doing. I love making those connections, even if I don't benefit. I love making those connections.
I love that. Thinking about organizing as connecting people is just a fantastic image to have of the task. So I love it.
Yep, yep. And I was the same way, Charles. So don't feel like the Lone Ranger because I never realized that that's what I was doing while I was on the inside. Was organizing people, bringing people together for shared values and commonalities. Um, of people wanting to go home and different things like that. So we've been doing the work, and sometimes it's challenging. So with you being an organizer now, what are some of your biggest challenges that you face?
And we sort of kind of talked about it on today earlier. One of the biggest challenges is getting getting people to buy in to the change. Um, Sometimes there's the old saying, you can't see the forest because of the trees. And so meaning that the trees are so close to you that you can't see the beauty of the forest. You can't see it, because you're looking at this tree and that tree and that tree. But when you step back or you high up looking down, you can see the forest. And a lot of times as organizers, we can see the bigger picture. We can see if you do X, Y, and Z, it's going to produce this. As far as with the conference, we can see that if FIPs come together all over this state, that some of the things that's happening in New Orleans with progressive judges, with progressive DAs, with progressive legislation, that it can happen all over Louisiana. It can happen in Shreveport. It can happen in Monroe. It can happen in Alexandria. It can happen all over the state. But people have to buy into it and they have to commit to it. Now, commitment isn't always easy. Sometimes the desire for the commitment is there, but when it's time for it to be applicable, if people missing it. I mean, we falling short. And so the biggest challenge is to get people to see the need, the change that's needed, and then to be fully committed into doing it. I know that I'm a little different and I be hard on people at times because when I see something, I'm all in. I have to stop myself. Sometimes people will tell me, look, at 8 o'clock, wake me up. See, at 8 o'clock, I'm coming. And you may want to hit that snooze button, but no, 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 no. I'm coming. And I have to mentally tell myself, well, don't be so literal. Don't be so stern. Don't be so hard. Because to me, if you say something, I'm taking you at your word. And the reason why I'm taking you at your word, because if I say something, I'm giving you my word. And those of us who've been incarcerated, we already know if we give you our word, it's law. It's good as gold. I'm not gonna let you down. And so because I live like that, is I be expecting people to have that same commitment.
That's a real statement because, I always tell people, especially when I get the opportunity to speak to employers, I always tell them, look, we're the first one on the job and the last one to leave. So that's just how we operate. Especially when we're trying to reestablish ourselves and be men and women of our word. We want to erase that stigma because they try to say, well, they don't do anything but lie, steal, or whatever. And so we work extra hard to remove that stigma. And one of the things that we love to ask our folks who come on the show, Charles, is what keeps you motivated? What gives you hope to continue to do this work, even in the face of all of these obstacles, all these trials and tribulations, all of these setbacks that we're seeing in legislation? What gives you hope to continue in this work?
One of the things that give me hope is there's a lot of guys that I want to see out of prison. There's a lot of guys I love. There's family members I still have incarcerated. And on the society aspect of it, I know that we can be doing better than what we are doing. I'm not saying everybody is doing bad, but as a community, we can be doing better. I do not feel good about minimum wage being 7.25 in the state of Louisiana. 7.25. That's less than $1,000 a month once they take taxes out. But guess what? When the census people come, how many people in the house? Well, it's just one of us, and it could be 10 of us. So that means that's people that's not being counted. And those people are not being counted. it puts us in a place where we're relying on government assistance. And the reason why we don't want to be counted in some houses is because on my lease, I can't have X, Y, and Z in here because I need help. And the reason why I need help is because 725 is not enough. It's not enough. And as long as the resources are not being evenly distributed inside the communities, I'm gonna be passionate about doing something to change. And the only way I can change it is to get people to see that you have the power to obtain the resources that you need. You just have to organize, get together, and move this thing.
Yeah, and that just made me think about, we do a lot of criminal justice reform work, but we focus on anything that directly impacts formerly incarcerated people. And by you mentioning the fact that minimum wage is still 7.25, that's something that we've been huge supporters of, because we know that that's not a livable wage. And so that is something that we advocate for. So just so our viewers know this, yes, we do kind of focus around criminal justice reform, but we also focus around anything that our people are directly impacted by, be it housing, employment, minimum wage, so those things also come into play as well. And we need everyone to show up at the FIP conference in Alexandria come July 13th. Charles, thank you so very much
Thank
for
y'all.
joining us. We certainly appreciate you. We look forward to having you on this show again and again and again. And best of luck to you on your wedding.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we will be back.